Yeah, welcome back. So, we hope that you found the course very interesting so far and helpful. Now, we're going to talk about something that is one of the cornerstones of early child development, and that's the development of language. Language is such a crucial component of human intelligence. It is literally how we think, understand, how we perceive and receive knowledge, and how we assimilate that knowledge into our understanding of the world. So language development is crucial. It's got all kinds of connections and correlations to lifelong health and wealth and overall success. So developing language is definitely something we want to focus on. So let's go ahead and look a little bit more into that.
Linguistics learning modules. So, linguistics and language development are critical to a baby's cognitive development. They are essential for humans. We are social creatures. Verbalization is how we communicate, it's how we think, it's how we problem solve, it's how we pass on our stories, our histories. Uh, you really can't say enough, and you can't overestimate how important language is to human development. So, we're going to spend a little bit of time on it and work on different techniques and concepts that help babies acquire language. Um, so, let's go ahead and dive right into some interesting concepts. And one of those is 30 million words. So, a while back, there was a study done looking at the difference in different households with how verbal parents are with their babies. And there was some really incredible results in this based on like longitudinal outcomes, expected outcomes for babies who had less words spoken to them versus babies who had more words, including words with a richer vocabulary spoken to them. It was a very stark difference in the outcomes and the expected outcomes for these two groups of babies. However, some criticisms came to light, and it turned out that a lot of this difference can also be correlated to socioeconomic status. So, socioeconomic status says that babies who had more affluent parents heard more words, were spoken to more often, and had a richer vocabulary. There's a few ways to really look at this. And one is like, the idea of the chicken or the egg. Are these parents more verbal because they're affluent, or are they more affluent because they're more verbal? And that's where we think the truth lies. We think in order to succeed in life, the ability to communicate and to think and to comprehend is critical. And so, of course, there's going to be different outcomes for people who are better communicators and better at comprehending things on a lot of socioeconomic scales. However, that doesn't mean that someone from a low socioeconomic scale can't become more verbal to benefit their babies. And that's what a lot of the people that use this 30 million word gap evidence are pushing for. You'll see a lot of early education, Head Start type things, interventions in low socioeconomic status populations where they're trying to help the parents be more verbal with their children. And that's kind of what we do. So we're taking the information and we're using it to understand, oh, here's how we should be interacting with our children to ensure the best possible outcomes. So moving forward from that, we will go back to our chart from Harvard where we see that babies do develop vision, hearing first. And we believe that's so that they can establish communication, to be able to read lips, to help them understand how to communicate, and also to hear and understand different sounds. And what's interesting is when babies are around 3 months old, up to about 7 months, they can understand and register sounds from all over the world because different languages produce different sounds, and different phonemes is what those sounds are called. So in Japan, the the letters and the sounds are different than they are in America. Even the tone is different. So in Japan, it's more the middle tones, whereas in America and other Western countries, it's the lows and the highs. And so babies are studying their language and their language processing areas of their brain, like we were talking about earlier with neural pruning and neural growth. They grow in the areas where those sounds and those phonemes are most prominent, and then they they go away and they prune off to the areas that the baby's not hearing. So that's how literally people grow different brain structures based on the sounds of the language that they're surrounded by and using, which is really pretty fascinating. So babies develop these physical abilities of hearing and vision, taste, touch, and smell, and then they develop and complete their language development areas. And then from the language development, it goes on to the cognitive functions, a succession, kind of like a foundation within the first story. And then the second story is built on that. Skill begets skills. And that's really the hallmark cornerstone concept of early child development is skills build on skills. So with language, we are giving them the tools that they're going to use to think. And language develops internally first, and then it goes verbal, and then speech emerges as a tool to comprehend and to express ideas. It becomes the scaffolding for our expression. The better we are able to understand vocabulary and words, the better we're able to use those symbols as a tool to express our ideas and communications. And it also allows us to become better at our perceptions and understanding what we see when we're able to categorize things more clearly and more distinctly. Also, an important thing happens, and that is inner speech becomes possible. And so, the earlier a child develops speech, the faster they're going to develop what's called private speech, is where babies start talking to themselves and it's not really for anyone outside of them. And a lot of times they'll be saying the same things that their caregivers have told them, but it's in private, it's to themselves. And then that will evolve into inner speech, where a baby is actually thinking internally, coming up with their own thoughts to predict and to understand what's happening and what's going to happen. This inner speech does not occur in every child. It's a more advanced level of development that's only possible when a kid has rich verbal development early on. And so if a child doesn't have a lot of verbal development and speech and language development, they don't excel or evolve to the point to where they have very good inner speech. And this inner speech and its complexity has been related to reading comprehension and reading and understanding speed and retention. So this is really a very important part of becoming a good learner. Babies who have a rich development in their language abilities will have good inner speech abilities, will have better reading comprehension and retention abilities. And so these are really, really critical skills. And that's why we make this a key part of our agency is our language development. But we also want everyone around the world to help these children and to really verbalize, because it doesn't cost anything. It takes a little bit of extra effort, but once you begin to do what we're going to suggest here that you do, it becomes natural, and it's a really fun way, and it just improves that open bond. So here are some of the things that you can do to help promote language development. You can verbalize everything. So, what you're doing, the who, what, when, where, how, and why. If you're not sure of what to tell a baby, when you're grabbing a bowl to put their cereal into, say what color bowl, say who is doing it. I am grabbing a bowl so that I can feed you. It is a red bowl. I'm taking it out of the cabinet. I'm setting it on the table. The table is rectangular. The table is also gray with different patterns in it, and just go on and on. I don't have to, I don't think, elucidate anymore on that. And then you have serve and return, and we're going to cover that, which is where you talk to the babies on their level and you kind of engage in a back and forth with whatever kind of sounds and noises the baby's making, as well as gestures and stuff. And then the three T's is just a healthy reminder how you can consistently do this. Tune in, talk more, and take turns. And those are going to be some key ways that we maximize this development. So we're going to watch a quick video that covers language development a little bit deeper for us, and then we will get onto the other lessons regarding serve and return and the 3 T's.
Of all mankind's inventions, none was more consequential than the birth of language. Before its creation, each person's knowledge was limited to what he or she experienced directly. Afterwards, someone who learned something could share it with anybody else. In this video, we'll look at 4 things known about language learning in general, and then listen to the story of Lucky Lucy and Poor Pete to understand the importance of language in everyday life. Our brain's foundation is built through experiences early in life. Pat Levitt, from the Center of the Developing Child at Harvard University, studied our brain development over the course of our life extensively. He showed how the brain's ability to change dramatically drops in the years of life, while the amount of effort such change requires increases. Another research showed that at age 5, 90% of a kid's brain has been formed. If during these years the child is blocked from receiving stimulating experiences, the language center and other parts of the brain are likely to remain weak for life. We learn language socially by observing and imitating others. Some 1,000 years ago, German Emperor Friedrich II wanted to prove the opposite and showed that we develop language naturally all by ourselves. He made his nannies raise some children. They were allowed to feed and clean them, but not to interact socially or ever speak a word. Not one child learned to speak, but instead, they all died. For the same reason, toddlers can't learn language via tape or technology. They need to be motivated through a human relationship. Then they pay attention and learn. Our language brain growth is strongest in year 1. If we study the brain's development by the rate of new synapse formation over the first 11 months of life and then the next 15 years, we can see how much the first 5 years matter. The growth in the part of the brain responsible for language peaks between birth and age 3. During this critical period, children can learn a new word every 90 minutes and several languages simultaneously. Our sensory pathways responsible for vision and hearing peak before, which makes sense because we need to see and hear to imitate language. 4-month-old infants, for example, if raised bilingual by a British mom and a Chinese dad, can already differentiate between 2 languages just by observing the lip movements of their caregivers. Higher cognitive function, such as logical reasoning, peaks only once we have the words and know the symbols to make sense of our world. Language makes our world. Rich language skills allow us to really listen, to speak well, to enjoy reading and master writing. They can create an entire world around us. As the German philosopher Wittgenstein said, "The limit of my language is the limit of my world." Let's take, for example, the word daycare center. Some people think of it as a preschool. The Irish call it play school, and the Germans invented the word kindergarten. Only if we know all 3 words can we understand what's possible. Now, let's listen to the story about Lucky Lucy and Poor Pete, 2 children raised in 2 very different ways. Lucy is raised by her mother. The mother is an average native English speaker who knows around 20,000 different words. Pete's parents hire a nice nanny from a foreign country. Instead of speaking in her native language, the nanny is told to talk to Peter only in English. While her everyday English seems okay, she actually knows only around 5,000 words.
Okay, so we're going to take a moment in this video just to address a couple things. So firstly, I'd like to say sorry for any offense by the the stereotypical depiction here of the foreign woman with the weaker English who's wearing the broad-brimmed hat, which, by the way, we love broad-brimmed hats. If you're going to be out in the sun with these babies, which we want you to be, make sure you're taking care of yourself, and hats are amazing for keeping you cool, and you just want to keep the UV rays off your skin directly. But we want to just point out and say sorry. It's there as an illustration to make a point or a concept easier to learn about like a weakened vocabulary. But we also want to say, in this particular example coming up, we want to say that the family and the child really missed out on an opportunity to further develop their language centers, because being fluent in two different languages is an advantage. It has a lot of positive expected outcomes that happen because of being fluent in a second language. It does further develop the language centers in ways that are kind of hard to measure exactly, but it definitely does help develop. So it would have been better had the nanny just maintained her native language and then the parents maintained theirs, and then they find a few common ground kind of words and phrases in order to help the child and make sure everything's good there. But one other thing we're going to go ahead and address, because we checked in a little bit further about Frederick II, the emperor who deprived the children of language. And there have been apparently several attempts to kind of do this. And as the Wikipedia article says, the reason Frederick II did it was to see what the language of God was. So it was driven by like a religious curiosity to see what native language the children would speak. So these are neglect and emotional abuse to do that, and it's not fair. And so if you look at it, they're considered the forbidden exercise. Like, that's why there's not a ton of psychological data on everything, is because some things are sinister. You just wouldn't want to do that to people, so that the data that we would get from that wouldn't be worthwhile. So I looked into this to see if there were actually children that died, and there's no proof that the children actually died. A lot of this stuff is just like, it's sort of the mythical fiction that's been carried on through the ages, and so the actual facts of it are foggy. So just wanted to also speak directly to that. But also, if you think about it as being abusive to limit a child's vocabulary, then what is it to expand their vocabulary? It's loving, it's supportive, it's all like the good things. And that's why we want to be doing this so strong and with so much focus and so purposefully and so thoughtfully. So continue on in this course. We're going to continue on in this video. Soak it all up and enjoy.
1/4 of what Anne's mom knows. Year 1 is when the language brain is developing the strongest. If Lucy is awake, half of the time her mom speaks, she will hear around 10,000 words per day and maybe 2,500 being directed at her. Directed language is what matters. Whenever her mom connects a word with an actual experience, Lucy learns its meaning. Peter hears English only when the nanny deliberately speaks to him, around 1,000 words a day. But not only is quantity lower, but also the quality. As the nanny is not fluent, there is a chance that many words come across broken. At their first birthday, both kids can say mama and papa. What we don't see is that Lucy actually already knows many, many words, even though she can't say them. But Pete's language universe is more limited. When Lucy and her mom look at picture books, her mom points out what they see. A little monkey is also a gorilla, an ape, a clever animal which uses tools, climbs trees, and lives with his mama and papa in the rainforest of Africa. When Pete looks at a picture book, his learning is limited by the language of the nanny. The same monkey is just cute and eats bananas. To compensate, he's given a language app. But as Pete lacks the foundation, he doesn't understand a word. To him, it's just a bunch of new sounds strangely connected to colorful characters. On their second birthday, Lucy knows already well over 200 words, the amount where children start to learn rules and apply grammar. Pete knows less. Sometimes he gets frustrated because he can't express himself. Lucy likes to go with her mom into the park. Sometimes they watch the old men play chess. She doesn't understand the game, but knows that there are pawns, rooks, knights, a queen and a king, a bishop and a horse. One day, she will learn the rules. It will be easy because she sees each figure clearly. Her understanding of their special skills is obvious. For a lack of language, Pete sees just a big checkered board and some wooden figures, which all look quite the same: pawns, knights, bishops. To understand the rules later will be hard for Pete. All figures look so similar. How could they do different things? At their third birthday, both can say their own name and form sentences. Lucy's vocabulary now holds 1,500 words. Pete's got 500 to make sense of this world. In year 4, they enter kindergarten. When Pete stands in front of the big shelf, he sees different wooden blocks, the ball, some old toy, a horse, and the yellow digger. When Lucy stands in front of the same shelf, she sees circles, triangles, squares, a basketball, the red pinwheel, the beige rocking horse, and the carton box of the Lego Technique digger. At playtime, Lucy understands what others are talking about and often takes the lead by suggesting a new idea. Pete often doesn't understand what she means. If the group discusses something for longer, he zones out because he has trouble following the conversation. By the end of the year, Lucy knows 3,500 words, where Pete only knows 1,000 words. Lucy now forms more complicated sentences and perfect grammar. In the evening, her mom reads bedtime stories to her. Words she's missing, she learns out of context. As a native speaker, the mom can raise and lower her voice, making the stories exciting. Fairy tales become alive in her head, and Lucy learns to imagine and to think creatively. Pete still speaks in more simple sentences, and his grammar is not perfect. When his nanny reads to him, the voice is more monotone. It's more boring, and paying attention is more difficult. Words he's missing often remain missing. By the end of the year, Lucy knows 6,000, and Pete knows 2,000 words. To understand why the actual difference in language abilities between the two is even larger than it seems, let's imagine that words are nothing but tools that help us uncode the world, form thoughts, structure ideas, and then communicate with others. With 6,000 words compared to 2,000 words, Lucy's toolbox is now 3 times the size. Lucy has a huge head start as she is entering elementary school. Einstein, by the way, as a child, seldom spoke. One interesting anecdote goes like this. As he was a late talker and hardly spoke at the age of 7, his parents were worried and tried many things to get him to speak. At one point, they were afraid that he had learning disabilities. At last, at the dinner table one night, he broke his silence to say, "The soup is too hot." Greatly relieved, his parents asked why he had never said a word before. The young genius replied, "Because up until now, everything was in order." What are your thoughts about language learning? Can someone like Pete still catch up later in life?
Now for our next lesson in the language and linguistics module is baby sign language. This is a fun one. Baby sign language is really pretty important, and it's something that we recommend every nanny do. Now, you can take baby sign language on and extend it into the later years as they mature past when they become verbal. We do recommend any kind of like secondary language or sign language to further develop a baby's language centers. It is helpful. It improves development of brain matter. It improves cognitive centers and their strengths and their synchronicity and connections. It's great. However, it is also an extra load on the nanny, and there's so much to do in regular daily life. We don't mandate a second language or extended sign language, but we do strongly encourage and mandate baby sign language as early as 6 months. So we say you can start as early as the baby starts showing you that they're using signals and symbols to communicate with you when they're pre-verbal. So a baby putting their arm up when they're done eating or shaking their head no when they don't like something. Be aware, and you will be, and you'll notice a baby starts to develop their own set of nonverbal cues. which are sign language. They're using signs to communicate with you. So you can expand on what the baby shows you. You can introduce some of your own as they make sense to you. You don't necessarily need to use American Sign Language as your guide for what symbols to use for what words and what meanings. Now, if you are going to continue to develop their vocabulary, you should probably use something that everyone's going to be able to recognize and understand. But for the initial development, you can make a cup, a gesture where you hold a cup and tip it up to your lips. You can make food like feeding with a spoon. Whatever makes sense to you. And like we said, if your baby's naturally doing some, use those. That's great. That'll be extra easy to implement. Now, it does begin naturally. Babies will start to use different gestures when they're pre-verbal. So just build on that. And the sign language, it improves communication, which improves your relationship with the baby. It reduces frustration, and it can make being able to support them and their needs easier when you know what they need. Now, some babies, you can tell by their cry what they're wanting, and different caregivers will be able to understand their cries. I know myself, my daughter, I could understand her cries and the differences in her cries, but my son, it seemed like it was like kind of one main cry for everything. So trying to understand his gestures, and we created our own little baby sign language so that he could communicate. Was he hungry? Was he tired? Was it just that he had a dirty diaper and that he needed to get out of that, which we could check for? So it is really helpful to be able to support your children and meet their needs. And like we said, you can make it up as you go, reduces frustration. And what's interesting is that babies that do use sign language seem to develop their speech sooner. And this also leads to higher IQ scores early on and throughout their life. So the earlier we can develop these language centers of the brain, the better your baby is going to be at life, at processing and solving problems, and at communicating. We're social creatures, but even the way we think and build stories and narratives and comprehension is all language based. So this is really important. And always make sure you're still combining the symbols or the signs with words. You don't want to just become nonverbal with the babies. We still really want you to engage in a very high amount of abundant use of spoken words, phrases, narrations about everything you're doing in your life to communicate with the baby and develop those language centers.
From the very first cry as she entered the world, your baby has been a born communicator. But that doesn't mean you'll always understand what she's trying to say. With all the leaps your little one has made in her verbal development over the last couple of months, and her determination to be understood stronger than it's ever been, there's still a pretty big communication gap between you. Does closing the gap mean waiting until your little one can speak your language? Not at all. Take a look and you'll notice that baby's probably already making his point more clearly than you might think. As when he gestures to a toy he spied on a high shelf, or the cracker he sees in the diaper bag, or when he pushes away that last spoonful of cereal, signaling meal over. It's not always easy to interpret, but it is a sign of the times. Your baby is signing up for baby signs. Should you sign up too? Chances are you already have. You point, you pantomime, yes, even in public. We parents have no shame. You shrug, you wave hello and wave goodbye. Maybe you put your hands together by the side of your tilted head when your baby's getting sleepy, or clap hands when cheering on your little one's latest exploits, or shake your head or wag your finger when she reaches for something she shouldn't touch. But incorporating even more baby signs into your daily interaction may be just the missing communication link you're looking for. Not only can using baby signs lead to fewer communication frustrations and snafus, it can boost baby's confidence as a communicator, motivating him to keep at his efforts, first through signs alone, then through a mix of signs and sounds, and ultimately through words and sentences. Most babies start to sign back between 10 and 14 months, but don't wait to get started. Your baby will understand signs before she can mimic them. Focus first on signs that will be most useful and start simply. Hungry? Rub your belly. Thirsty? Put a cupped hand to your mouth. She wants a lift? Arms up. She wants down, palms face down and then lowered. She wants to go out? Wave bye-bye and point at the door. You can follow a formal baby signs curriculum or make up your own or mix a combo. Borrow from your baby too. It'll be extra satisfying if you use signs he has devised. His chubby fingers can speak volumes. Because talking is the long game, always connect the sign with the spoken word. Smack your lips to show that your broccoli tastes good, but also say, yummy broccoli. Sign consistently and frequently. By seeing the same signs over and over, your baby will learn and imitate them more quickly. But be sure to give signs time. Like learning any new language, it's a process. Finally, know when to sign off. Signing, like speaking, should develop naturally and at a baby's own pace.
Okay, here's another super quick module called the 3Ts, and it's just a mnemonic to help you remember to be overly and abundantly verbal with your kids. And what are the 3Ts? Can you imagine what they might stand for regarding talking? Give you a hint, talking is one of them. The other two are tune in and take turns. So we want to build strong brains. We want to be extremely verbal with these kids. So we want to tune in with no distractions. We want to talk about anything. Talk about anything and everything. Ask questions. That's a great way to talk because it means you're taking turns and it extends the conversation. So you and your little one, of course, are going to have moments throughout the day where there's not a lot of talking going on. You can leave them quietly to do what they're doing. We all need time to process internally. We're not saying you need to be a blanket of communication that starts and stops when you come into and leave the house. However, there are a lot of opportunities to speak that do make sense and they are going to be natural for you. So take those opportunities, tune in, talk more, and take turns.
The 3Ts. Tune in, talk more, and take turns. Tune in means be in the moment with your child.
What is that? It's a pipe. Look, you see? Water goes through there. Huh? You see there? Whoa, look how it feels. Metal. It's circle too. It's circle like a ball. Whoa, it's like a ball. Look, it's like a circle. Yeah, let's go. Oh, you covered it.
Talk more means talk and interact with your child.
You want to come join Daddy for music? Would you say up, please? Up, please. Oh, oh, Daddy's take his shoes off. Whoa, no. Whoa, no, you don't. Daddy take his shoes off. They're off now. Yeah. You want to try on Daddy's shoes? No? Yeah, I don't blame you. Those are big shoes there to get into. Can I have it? Oh, thank you very much.
Take turns means engage in conversation with your child.
What do you got back there? You got a car? You got your key and you got your car? Is that the key to the car? Are you gonna drive too? What color is that car? Hmm? What color is that car?
Whoa, the digger.
A digger? Oh yeah, over there. The construction truck.
Digger.
A digger and a dump truck.
Durger don't walk.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about serve and return, a method for developing language in babies, but not just language, but also expanding babies' other cognitive abilities and development. Serve and return is widely praised worldwide, unanimously regarded as a great thing to do with babies. And like we said at one point in the training, you probably already do some of these things, but the idea is to do them more consistently and more abundantly so that those babies can really reap the benefits from the enrichment and the stimulation that you're providing them. And one of those things is serve and return. So, what is serve and return interaction? Well, if you haven't heard, what it is it's a back and forth interaction with the baby. They name it serve and return based off of like tennis or volleyball, where the ball gets hit to one side and then it gets volleyed back to the other. You serve it, you return it. So the idea is that it's a back and forth, and which is the basis for all communication is it's all a back and forth. Every relationship is a back and forth. It's a communication between all living things. So that's why as social creatures, we really greatly benefit from serve and return in those early development years from 0 to 3. So what you're going to do is you're going to mimic the baby's sounds, the baby's gestures, their expressions, and just kind of let them know that they're seen and heard because they're going to register, oh, this this person's making the same sound I'm making. I must have some sort of impact in their world. And now we have a relationship. It's not all one way communication where they are communicating to you. You're getting the bottle, you're putting them down for a nap, you're giving them the toy. Now it's going back to them, and they're learning that when they respond back, you're going to respond back even further so they can kind of open up the two-way communication that's necessary for communication and interrelationships. There are a few really great things that serve and return does. Namely, it builds the circuits in the brain. Serve and return develops those language centers in the brain, and it builds those circuits to really make stronger those language circuits so that the baby can uh, process and attain language ability sooner. And the sooner and stronger they attain those, the better they're going to do at life. Because, like we said, language is the foundation for all problem solving and comprehension. It is the key to cognitive abilities. So the stronger language centers can be, the better. And so we're going to start building those with serve and return activity, a lot of serve and return activity. You really can't do it too much. There's no bad time to engage the baby with a little back and forth cooing and babbling, smiling and laughing. It's really a wonderful activity. It strengthens the caregiver child relationship. So you're going to be building that bond, which is important on so many levels. It's also going to develop communication skills and language, which again, important on very many levels. But it also begins to develop early on a baby's sense of empowerment and their role in the world as not just a one-way communicator, but the ability to receive and understand, and then to be able to give communications again, to serve and return and serve and return. That is going to develop the baby's cognitive understanding of how relationships and how their relationship to the world works sooner, which is going to have profound implications for how the rest of their development goes during this critical window when they are expanding at 1 million synapses a second. So you want to be able to bootstrap these skills early into their development so that they are able to really take advantage of that developmental window sooner. So serve and return is vital because it builds these skills before they're verbal, before they're able to articulate sounds and get words out. The serve and return is, like we said, it is globally supported. There is all kinds of evidence saying how important and effective it is. And this is something that we will absolutely be doing. Everyone needs to be doing this. And this is one of those mandated activities where there's no reason good enough to not do this. If you can't engage with back and forth with a baby, then really being a caregiver is not for you. This is a foundation activity, perhaps the foundation activity of being a caregiver. Aside from having the skills, of course, being patient and calm and being there for the emotional and social development, when it comes to the cognitive development, serve and return is the foundation. So be ready to do a lot of this. And again, if you have any questions about serve and return, you can always contact us. We're happy to elaborate more, but we do want to keep these videos as short as they need to be. We don't want to just keep you here for just to hear ourselves talk. So with that in mind, we're going to go ahead and conclude this video. But regarding language development, serve and return is the way. Okay, just want to take a quick second. This is going to be a repetition of a video for you. So you will have seen this video twice. You saw it once before in the module for neural development, and then you're going to see it right now. We just want you to notice how important repetition is. So even though we're repeating it and we're not showing you new material, you're going to come to it at a different level yourself. And so the information that you're going to take from this video this time is going to be different and more advanced than the information you took from the video last time. And it's going to lead to further questions and just further learnings. So cognition builds on itself. It's you have to get familiar with a certain thing, idea, concept, and then build on that. And that's how learning takes place. So repetition is a key method for learning. Just repeating people to the same thing multiple times, even though it's the same thing, you're going to experience it differently and your learnings will be different each time. So we just want to say that. Enjoy this great video.
The key to forming strong brain architecture is what's known as serve and return interaction with adults. In this developmental game, new neural connections form in the brain as young children instinctively serve through babbling, facial expressions, and gestures. And adults return the serve, responding in a very directed, meaningful way. It starts very early in life, when a baby coos and the adult interacts and directs the baby's attention to a face or hand. This interaction forms the foundation of brain architecture upon which all future development will be built. It helps create neural connections between all the different areas of the brain, building the emotional and cognitive skills children need in life. For example, here's how it works for literacy and language skills. When the baby sees an object, the adult says its name. This makes connections in the baby's brain between particular sounds and their corresponding objects. Later, adults show young children that those objects and sounds can also be represented by marks on a page. With continued support from adults, children then learn how to decipher writing and eventually to write themselves. Each stage builds on what came before. Ensuring that children have adult caregivers who consistently engage in serve and return interaction, beginning in infancy, builds a foundation in the brain for all the learning, behavior, and health that follow.
Did you know that you can help build a child's brain? Everyday interactions can have a big impact on developing brains throughout childhood, starting even before babies can talk.
Scientists call this serve and return, like a game of tennis or ping pong. A child serves by showing an interest in something, and the adult responds in a supportive way.
Finding moments throughout the day to do it is easy and fun, and you'll be building strong brains. You can use 5 steps to practice serve and return with any child. Step 1. Share the focus.
When a child is interested or curious, you can see it.
What's this? It's a stroller.
Watch this child look at something in a book. Right there. Pointing shows interest.
Cow.
So does making a sound, like this child. And mom is paying close attention.
See baby moving those little arms and legs and focusing on the ball? That's a serve.
The key is paying attention to what the child is noticing.
Oh, you like those guys too?
Look at Grandpa sharing the focus.
By noticing serves, you will help build curiosity, and you'll strengthen your relationship.
Step 2. Support and encourage.
You can return a child's serve by saying a word of encouragement.
That's right. Very good.
Watch Grandpa return this serve by saying thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Even a facial expression can encourage a child.
Orange.
Or emotion, like this mom dancing.
Time.
You can also pick up the object that the child is pointing to and bring it closer.
We need help to sit her down.
Things like helping and playing with the child let them know that their thoughts and feelings are heard and understood. Step 3. Name it.
Yeah, the puppy. See the windows, the house.
When you return a child's serve by naming what they are seeing, doing, or feeling, you make important language connections in their brain.
He's got bumps all over him, huh?
This brain building happens even before a child can talk or understand your words.
You can name anything: a person, a thing, an action, a feeling, or a combination.
Clean up, everybody do your shit.
When you name what a child is focused on, you help build understanding of the world around us and what to expect from it.
The baby's sitting. Ooh, the baby's sitting in the back seat of the car.
You like those? Those are raisins. You have raisins all the time.
Naming also gives a child words to use later and shows that words are important to you.
Step 4. Take turns back and forth.
Taking turns helps children learn self-control and how to get along with others.
Waiting is crucial. When you return a serve, give the child a chance to respond.
How are you? I'm good. How are you?
Note that the caregiver waits here for the next serve.
See this toddler navigating a new adventure? Grandpa is waiting patiently, returning serves by asking questions and then waiting to see what happens next.
Yeah.
You want to cover it?
Yeah.
Are you cold?
Yeah.
Let me put this over your lap like this, okay? There. Do you like that?
Yeah.
Oh.
By waiting, you give the child time to develop ideas and build confidence and independence.
Step 5. Practice endings and beginnings. Children signal when they're done or ready to move on to a new activity.
Watch how this child shows it's time to start something new. Letting go of a toy signals an ending. Then picking up a new toy signals the next beginning.
Want to play with the giraffe?
Sharing the focus is important in this step.
Ooh, the big eagle.
Because this mom is sharing the focus, she notices when her child is ready to end one activity and begin something new.
When you can find these moments for a child to take the lead,
Want to try this one?
you support the child in exploring their world
Would you like to play with something else?
and make more serve and return interactions possible.
Sit there.
Serve and return interaction is critical for a child's developing brain. And the best news is that you can do it anytime, anywhere, without any need for toys or technology.
Look for small opportunities throughout the day, like while you're making a snack or while you're grocery shopping. What matters most is that you're doing each of these 5 steps. Notice the serve and share the child's focus of attention. Return the serve by supporting and encouraging. Name it, take turns going back and forth, and practice endings and beginnings.
Serve and return interactions make everyday moments fun and become second nature with practice. Try practicing with a child today.
Okay, as per usual, we are always here to help answer any questions and provide any kind of clarifications that we can. And next up, you'll have a quiz, which you'll have to pass to unlock that next module. The next module is going to be the cognitive developmental skills. That's where we'll talk about the stuff that you're going to do in the activities and the real purposeful and strategic activities that we set up to help these children develop. But for now, it's quiz time, so good luck and we'll see you soon.